I want to expose a trick of the devil in case anybody out there cares. One thing that the devil does, and I've been a witness to this many times in my life, is anytime something good starts to happen, some liberation movement, people waking up, people gathering, people organizing, people getting together to take down tyranny, people getting saved, revivals, anything like this. The devil is already involved anytime this happens, and he's already working to destroy it and to sidetrack it and to veer it. One example I know of is the abortion movement, or I should say anti-abortion movement. As a young child, I remember evangelical Christians lining up miles long of a road against it. And so what happened was there was this uprising against it, and people were coming together. And then the devil got the Catholics involved, and the Catholics kind of said, we will take over this movement, and we will be devoted to it, and all you evangelical Christians can just kind of go back to your pews, and we will handle this, and we will show up at the abortion clinics every abortion day, and we will pray, and we will do this stuff. When I would go to an abortion clinic to preach, there was a guy there. He would come up and he would want your information, and he would claim to be on your side. And what he would do is he'd put you on an email list, and he would send out emailings, and he would say what days they're going to be there, and how to behave, and where to park, and what not to say. And this was basically the devil taking control of the movement against abortion. So the devil's very clever in this aspect, and the devil does this over and over and over again. He did this, another place he did this with the street preaching community. When I got saved 7 years ago, YouTube was a fairly new thing. I mean, it had been around, but it was growing and growing in popularity. Preachers were going to YouTube. As a saved Christian, one of the things that got me saved was the availability of information. I was finally I had all this access to real information, to scientists that didn't agree with evolution, to different teachings that normally I would have never really had access to. And so that really contributed to me being saved. Seeing street preachers got me saved. So I wanted to become a street preacher. So I sought long and hard and reached out to a bunch of preachers, and eventually I found myself out there doing street preaching. And in the process, it was this beautiful thing. It was this brotherhood from one end of the country to the other, and preachers meeting each other and finding each other and fellowshipping and meeting up at different events throughout the country. And it was this beautiful thing. But little did we know the devil was already involved in it. And the devil used one man to plant a seed of division. This man, his initials were KS. Some new people into the street preaching community probably maybe have no idea who he is. But this guy, he managed to plant a seed of division and deception in the street preaching community, which had a huge ripple effect throughout the whole thing. It basically tore down everything that was being built up. Now, don't get me wrong, God has taken this and He's used it, okay? But nowadays, there's street preachers all around the country that hate each other. They won't talk to each other. And what happened was, when this seed of division was planted, the street preaching community separated, split up, and you had two types. You had, back then it was known as the softballers and the hardballers, and then later on it became the softballers became the purity preachers, and the hardballers are known as the spirit-filled preachers. So you have the purity and the spirit-filled, and the problem is the purity preachers won't preach with the spirit-filled. And the spirit-filled preachers are okay to preach with the purity preachers. They may not agree with them all, but typically they're okay because they tend to understand that you may be wrong on some doctrine, but at least there's men rising up and taking to the streets and preaching the Bible and the Word of God. And if 100,000 or 200,000 or 1,000,000 men would do this, we know the world would be vastly different than it is today. So that's another example of how the devil, he took this great thing that was happening, he packaged it, he gave it titles, he gave it names, he gave it divisions. He wanted to change the image of it, and he was very successful in doing that. So again, I've said this before in other videos. The devil is smarter than any of you. Okay, the devil's been doing this longer than any of you. The devil knows the Bible better than any of you. Don't get puffed up on your knowledge of the Bible. It's a very dangerous thing, and you can get prideful because you have such knowledge of the Bible. Never think for a second that the devil's not smarter than you, or the devil doesn't have more knowledge than you. Don't ever think for a second the devil hasn't already infiltrated your church. All right? Jesus, the Son of God, God himself, okay, had 12 disciples. Out of those 12, one of them already was a deceiver. All right? Don't think for a second you don't have deceivers. And I'm not trying to drive division. I'm not trying to make everybody look at each other and say, oh, is he a traitor? I just want you to understand the devil's smarter than you, okay? And nothing that you think you've done, the devil isn't already done it before or been ahead of you. So you got to be wise. The devil's taken great organizations in the past, like Salvation Army, the Methodist Church, things that were once great, and he's taken them and he's turned them, okay? Salvation Army does a lot of good things, but they're not what they used to be, okay? They welcome sodomy, all right? Same thing with the Methodist Church. They have homosexual pastors, women pastors, just filthy, disgusting things that occur now. And the devil's okay if you've got a little holy-filled community in your house. He's okay with that because he knows over time that's going to change. And he's going to take that and he's going to use it. So we've got to be careful, guys. Fellowship is an important thing. It's very important among the brethren. But don't take it and don't turn it into a religion. Beware of the leaven of the Pharisees, okay? Don't let the devil guilt you into thinking you have to be somewhere every Sunday morning, every Wednesday evening, every Tuesday, every Thursday. Because a lot of people will base their salvation on that. Look what we do. We meet 3-4 times a week. Pat ourselves on the back. The devil will use that against you. And it won't be long, a generation, 2 generations at the most down the road, when that whole organization that you set up, that whole religion, is gone away. It's turned aside. It's back to evil. It's back to wickedness, okay? All right. Well, God bless you.